You know that feeling, right? When you're in a debate and you just know you're right, but you still somehow lose the argument? Or you see some ideas online and wonder, how did that catch on? Well, today on The Explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're decoding the hidden blueprint of persuasion. Think of it like a user manual for how arguments actually work.
So let's start with a little thought experiment. What if you could, see the matrix behind every argument? I mean, what if you could map out the hidden structure in every debate, every hot take, every single persuasive tweet you scroll past? Imagine seeing the actual machinery whirring away just underneath the words.
Well, it turns out we kinda can. And that's the whole idea behind a really cool field called argument mining. It's all about using tech and, linguistics to uncover that hidden blueprint. It basically takes the art of persuasion and turns it into a science.
All right, so first things first. Before we can decode anything, we've got to understand the basic anatomy of an argument. Because here's the thing, without a few key parts, what you're hearing isn't actually an argument. It's just, well, an opinion.
So, at its absolute core, a solid argument is a structure made up of three parts. You've got the claim, that's the point you're trying to make. Then there's the justification, that's your proof, your evidence. And finally, the warrant. This is the tricky one. It's the hidden link, the unstated assumption that holds the other two together.
Okay, let's dive into these a little deeper. First up, the claim. This is basically the conclusion, right? It's the main point the speaker wants you to buy into. It's the what of the whole argument. You could almost think of it as the destination on a map they're trying to get you to.
But of course, a claim all by itself is pretty weak, isn't it? It needs backup. It needs justification. This is your evidence. It's the because part of the sentence. We're talking data, facts, reasons, basically anything that gives the claim some legs to stand on.
And now for my favorite part, the most interesting piece of the puzzle, the warrant. This is where the magic happens. Think of it as this invisible bridge of logic that connects your justification to your claim. It's almost always an unstated belief, a shared idea that the speaker is just assuming you already agree with.
Okay, let me give you an example. Somebody says, this hotel is very nice because it's close to bars and cinemas. So the claim is, the hotel is nice. The justification is its location. But what's the unstated warrant? What's that invisible bridge? It's the shared belief that, hey, being close to social stuff is a good thing. See how it works?
Okay, so once you get that basic structure down, claim, justification, warrant, this is where it gets really cool. You start to realize that most arguments aren't just made up on the spot. They follow these really predictable patterns, kind of like plays from a playbook. Now, in linguistics, these patterns have a name, argument schemes, and they are these common, totally reusable templates for persuasion that you'll start seeing everywhere. I'm talking political debates, online reviews, you name it. And once you learn to spot them, it's like having X-ray vision in a conversation. Seriously.
So here are just a handful of the most common schemes you're going to run into. Each one uses a slightly different kind of logic, a different kind of warrant to connect the dots, and they can all be super persuasive. Okay, here's a classic, the argument from expert opinion. When someone says something like this, what are they really doing? They're citing a big, respected institution, the London School of Economics, to borrow its authority and make their claims sound way more credible. The hidden warrant here is simple. We should trust what experts say. Then you've got the argument from analogy. This one is really powerful. It works by comparing two totally different situations and saying, hey, these two things are similar, so what applies to one should apply to the other. You see it here. My sister gave me a gift, so I should help her study. The logic tries to create a sense of fairness or reciprocity by drawing a parallel, even if the situations aren't exactly the same. It's a subtle but really effective way to frame things.
All right, so how do we actually spot these arguments out there, in the wild? Well, the key is to listen for some very specific linguistic clues. Language itself kind of leaves behind these little fingerprints that can point you right to a claim being made.
So words like the ones you see here, they're basically big red flags telling you that a debatable claim is on the table. When you hear someone use evaluative words like unsafe, or modal verbs like should, or phrases like I believe, that's a signal. It's not a statement of fact anymore, it's a subjective position. And those words are practically an invitation for a debate. But wait, it gets even deeper than just identifying an argument. We can actually start to measure its strength. And you know what? A huge part of that strength comes down to the specific words being used, the kind of weight of the words themselves. And this is absolutely crucial. The specific words someone chooses can make an argument feel way stronger or way weaker. It's not just about what they're saying, but how they're saying it. Every word carries a certain emotional and logical weight, and that can totally change the impact of the entire message.
Let's just look at verbs for a second. Saying a proposal will ruin a project, wow, that carries a heavy negative weight, right? It's so much stronger than saying it will just lessen it. And on the flip side, guaranteeing a good outcome, that's a universe away from just improving it. The choice of verb really matters.
And it's the exact same principle for adjectives. If you describe a plan as dangerous, that's way more persuasive and alarming than just calling it risky. And on the positive end, something that is certified feels a whole lot more secure than something that's just described as safe. It really hammers home the point. Word choice is everything.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and connect all this nitty-gritty analysis back to the ultimate goal, actually persuading someone. Because as we've all probably experienced, a perfectly logical argument isn't always a convincing one, is it? There's more to it than just the structure.
You know, the ancient Greeks were absolute masters of this stuff, rhetoric. And they figured out centuries ago that to really convince someone, you need more than just facts. You need a really delicate balance of three fundamental appeals.
And here they are. They called them logos, which is the appeal to logic and reason. That's the structure we've been breaking down this whole time. Then there's ethos, which is all about the speaker's credibility and character. And finally, pathos, the big one, the appeal to the audience's emotions.
And this, right here, is the final piece of the puzzle. While all this argument mining stuff is focused on decoding the logos, the logical structure, a truly deeply persuasive message doesn't just rely on logic. It masterfully blends that logic with ethos and pathos to make an idea feel not just logical, but important and compelling.
So, here's what I want you to take away from all this. You now have a new lens to see the world with. The next time you hear an argument, doesn't matter if it's in the news, in an ad, or just in a chat with a friend, try to listen for that hidden architecture. See if you can spot the claim, find the justification, and, most importantly, identify that invisible warrant that's holding the whole thing up. I promise, you'll be surprised by what you find.